बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। प्रोग्राम सदा कश्मीर के साथ मैं सैयद महमूद गुद्दजी। नाज़रीन, आज मेरे साथ बरतानिया से एक मुअज़्ज़ज़ ख़ातून हमारे साथ है, जो कश्मीर के मसला कश्मीर और कश्मीरी लोगों की पे जो इंडिया की जानब से ढाए जाने वाले जुल्म और सितम को देखते हुए आज 2.5 साल हो चुके ये कश्मीर के हवाले से पूरी दुनिया में और बिलखुसूस लंदन में, स्कॉटलैंड, जेनेवा और तमाम उस इलाके तक और थ्रू सोशल मीडिया और अखबारात और टीवी के ज़रिए ये कश्मीरियों की हमायत में पूरी दुनिया पे अवेयरनेस फैलाने के हवाले से ये मशहूर हैं और ये आज हमारे स्टूडियो पे तशरीफ़ लाई। तो इनकी जानब जाने से पहले मैं ये चाहूँगा कि ये ख़ातून, इनका ताल्लुक़ इंग्लैंड से है और ये एक एजुकेशनिस्ट हैं, ये ह्यूमन एक्टिविस्ट हैं, ये इंसानी भलाई के लिए दुनिया में काम करती हैं। लेकिन इस वक्त इनका जो मेन फोकल पॉइंट, जो एजेंडा है, वो कश्मीर है और कश्मीरी को जो उस गैर कानूनी, जो अनएथिकल इस वक्त जो मोदी ने वहाँ एक कानून लागू किए हैं, उस हवाले से जो जुल्म और सितम हो रहा है, उसकी मुखालफत में ये पूरी दुनिया में, पूरी दुनिया के ज़मीरों को जगाने में ये इस वक्त दौड़ धूप कर रही हैं और ये इस वक्त पाकिस्तान विज़िट कर रही हैं। पाकिस्तान तशरीफ़ लाई थी तो हमने ये कोशिश की कि हमारे स्टूडियो में आए और आप तक इसकी आवाज़ और इसका इंटरव्यू पहुँचाएँ और इसके ख़यालात आपको जानने का मौका मिले कि ये ब्रिटिश होकर तो कश्मीरियों की हमायत में किस कदर दर्द रखती है। मैडम क्लेयर Bidwell, thank you very much. You are visiting us here in our studio, and I was just informing my viewers that how keenly you are working for the sake of Kashmiris and watching their atrocities and their siege and their the killings and brutal kind of actions being taken by Indian forces. So thank you very much. You are absolutely working for the last 3 years for the Kashmiris, and you are taking their over flags from one end to another end. You are meeting with the MPs over there, with the social workers, with civil societies, with the diplomats and everywhere. So I'm really, and we Kashmiris are highly obliged that you are doing and sacrificing and giving us such a prime time to for our cause, for our noble cause, I would say. So I'll ask you first question. What kind of event makes you convinced that you left all your professional job and you are working for the cause of Kashmir and for the Kashmiri people?
Well, it was the events of the 5th of August 2019 when Modi went into Kashmir. And I think really it was on a human level. It was an individual human story that I first heard that alerted me, where a friend could not contact his family or his sister. He didn't know how they were. And then that story unfolded.
And while you were in India and you met with your friend and he was telling you his misery and his problem.
At the time, he wasn't a friend. I was on holiday in India and he was a Kashmiri rug salesman. He was amazing. And I'd said to him at the time, if ever I own a shop, you're going to be my sales manager. And to this day, I find it quite poetic because he didn't just sell me 2 Kashmiri rugs when I was looking for a doll, but he sold me the whole story of Kashmir. And so my eyes were opened just on one person's story to the atrocities, and then hearing, with all the political leaders.
Madam Claire, I would like to share the BBC report on the India.
Yeah.
What BBC gathered from Indians' history and story, how they are behaving with the general public over there, and what they are doing. नाजरीन, मैं ये चाहूँगा कि आप बीबीसी की एक रिपोर्ट जो है, वो जो हाल ही में इस वक्त ब्रॉडकास्ट हुई है, ज़रा वो भी आप देखें और उसके साथ हम आगे चलेंगे और ज़रा इस बीबीसी रिपोर्ट को देख लें और इसके बाद आगे जी।
They meant to protect all of India's people, but here the police are seen with Hindus throwing stones towards Muslims. Videos like these have been emerging since the violence last week. We went to the street where the footage was filmed, a predominantly Hindu one. Himanshu Rathore described how the police helped them. We didn't have enough stones here, so the police brought us some and told us to throw them. Across the road, we find the burnt-out house of a Muslim man. I saw the police come in with the rioters, who set the shops on fire in front of them. Bhura Khan told me. We've been able to investigate how events unfolded at this one location. But on several instances now, we've been told by people that the police were either complicit with or turned a blind eye to Hindu mobs and used excessive force against Muslims. This Muslim man was beaten to death by the police. Faizan was 23. In another video, he's seen lying unconscious with 4 other men. Some of them are forced to sing India's national anthem to prove their patriotism. We're Indians like you are, the men plead. At Faizan's home, preparations for his funeral were being made when we went. He couldn't stand up or sit down. My brother was in so much pain. His whole body had turned black and blue. He was beaten in such places that I can't even express it. Faizan's brother.
ये इंडिया की सूरत हाल है और उस जिस तरह वो अपने पब्लिक के साथ और लोगों के साथ ये डील कर रहे हैं उसके हवाले से आपने ये इस क्लिप में ये देखा होगा। इसी के साथ मैं अपने जो सीनियर डिप्लोमेट में जनाब अब्दुल बासत साहब उनका हाल ही में एक जो वीलॉग है मैं ये चाहूँगा कि वो भी आपसे शेयर करूँ। और ये सारी चीज़ें देखने के बावजूद हमारे मुसलमान मुल्क इंडिया के साथ किस तरह से आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। और जब एक तरफ हमारे मुसलमान मुल्क वहाँ उनके साथ MOU दस्तखत करके कश्मीर में भी इन्वेस्टमेंट करने के लिए जा रहे हैं और कश्मीर के वो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में पैसे डालने के लिए जा रहे हैं, और उसी के साथ एक तरफ ये मुसलमानों की ये जो हरकत हैं या उनकी जो दोस्तियां हैं मोदी के साथ उसकी तरफ भी आप देखें। और उसी के साथ एक ब्रिटेन से एक खातून जो है वो इंसानी हमदर्दी में डोर टू डोर किस तरह से चल रही है और कश्मीरियों की आवाज़ को दुनिया पे पहुंचाने के लिए किस तरह कोशिश कर रही है। मैं ये चाहूँगा कि हमारे जो सीनियर डिप्लोमेट जो हमारे अब्दुल बासत साहब हैं ज़रा इनकी भी ये व्लॉग ये जो वीडियो क्लिप देखिएगा।
मैंने कुछ 6 माह पहले अपनी एक व्लॉग में ये कहा था कि भारत की जहाँ तक कश्मीर की स्ट्रेटजी है उसका एक पार्ट ये भी है कि वो किसी या एक कंपोनेंट एलिमेंट ये भी है कि वो किस तरह कुछ मुसलमान ममालिक को ये राज़ी करे, परसुएड करे कि वो मकबूजा जम्मू और कश्मीर में अपने मिशंस खोलें, अपनी कॉन्सुलेट्स वहाँ खोलें और वहाँ पे इन्वेस्ट करें। और ये इसलिए भी ज़रूरी था कि OIC के अंदर से उसको कमज़ोर किया जाए जहाँ तक कश्मीर का मामला, और OIC को किसी काबिल ना छोड़ा जाए कि वो जम्मू और कश्मीर के मसले पे कोई असूली स्टांस ले सके। आज की ख़बर है कि दुबई और भारत के दरमियान एक मेमोरेंडम ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग पे दस्तखत हो गए हैं, जिसके तहत दुबई जो है वो मकबूजा जम्मू और कश्मीर में वहाँ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जो डेवलपमेंट है उसमें इन्वेस्ट करेगा।
नाज़रीन, ये सूरत हाल है हमारे मुसलमान मुल्कों की, हमारे भाइयों की, कि जो इंडिया के साथ मिलकर जो इंडिया का जो दीराना ख्वाब था कि हम OIC को भी तोड़कर उसको भी रेज़ा करके अलहदा करके तो मैं वहाँ भी अपना कदम जमाने की कोशिश करूँ, तो उसमें वो तकरीबन कामयाब होता जा रहा है। अगर यूनाइटेड अरब इमिरेट्स ने अगर वहाँ कश्मीर में जाकर अपना कॉन्सुलेट खोल लिया या वहाँ जाकर उन्होंने इन्वेस्टमेंट शुरू कर ली तो मेरा ख्याल है कि OIC के हवाले से तो हम बहुत ही कमज़ोर पड़ जाएंगे और इसमें इंडिया कामयाब हो जाएगा। अब देखना यह है कि क्या पाकिस्तान ने इसके तोड़ करते हुए इस हवाले से क्या अचीवमेंट की, हमें तो उस हवाले से मायूसी नज़र आती है। मैडम क्लियर, Indians, this is what the video clips we were showing to our viewers, that how India is proceeding and how India is convincing our Muslim brothers to come in Kashmir and invest and all these kind of things. But you have raised a petition and you were planning to submit that petition to the United Nations. How, I mean, what is your success about that, and how many people so far, I mean, could have been signed and all this kind of thing? So what is your success in that efforts?
I think the success really has come in the numbers that's grown from the movement. I mean, just to refer to a question you asked me earlier, I'm still teaching. I'm a school teacher.
Okay.
And so I would do this work beyond in my own time, as it were, chosen. So the petition itself, 3,000 signatures maybe for self-determination for Kashmiris to the United Nations to implement that. But what we've done, what's happened is a movement has grown under, you know, Let Kashmir Decide, and there's a global Let Kashmir Decide mandate now. It's a humanitarian mission. The idea to bring everybody together, all ideologies on the human level, and everybody can support it. I mean, even the likes of Indian people could gather around this for the solutions, because their lives are also impacted, you know, for the soldiers or things like that. This kind of behaviour that we've just seen, to me, I've never, even in horror movies, I'd never seen anything as awful as that. So we're looking at different layers in that behaviour. This was one programme that I believe was shown on the BBC around the Delhi programmes, was it?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So it was like, if that's going on here in daylight, what on earth's going on in Kashmir, plus all the evidence that we'd had. It's just not on our TV. That's been one programme on the BBC maybe in the 2 years since the lockdown came and since I've been doing this. So, you know, when I first came into this and was looking, there was nothing in our mainstream media. So it was just about what one person can do to make a difference. And, you know, it is then more about more than one person, because you can't do it without other people's support.
You are meeting since, I mean, for the last 2.5 years.
Well, 2 years.
Okay,
yeah.
For the last 2 years, you are meeting with the diplomats, you are meeting with the civil society, with the British people and with the Pakistani, Asian and all. What kind of result did you obtain from your meetings, and what is your observation that people are now trying to recognize the Kashmiri miseries and Kashmiri problems, and they recognize the atrocities being committed by Indian forces in Kashmir?
We're still a little way to go. What I've achieved, or what we've achieved as a group, is like an ordinary person's perspective that knew nothing about this. And so the journey's grown from the connecting with Kashmiris for me initially in Britain, connecting with the Kashmiris in Azad, setting up a group where we were the voices on the inside and the outside, Indian occupied Kashmir, sharing the stories through, you know, from people that could. And so it's gradually built. You know, I was embraced by British Kashmiris to stand in different platforms on media to speak about this. This then led the journey via Parliament. I wanted to have a whole world solidarity event. Couldn't get into Srinagar, so I thought we'll hold it in Muzaffarabad. And I came looking for people to support a Kashmiri cultural event based around tea that we could stream out to the world and show people about these atrocities, because for me, they're horrendous, and it was on that effort. We get one life, and the life is being spent like that. And I wanted to reach people, because I've been one of those people in Western societies where you get on with your life's there in front of you, and you think you can't make a difference. And what I've learned myself is, well, actually you can make a difference if you've got the support of other people as well, and they're all making the difference. So
That's right.
It's built the movement, built the solidarity. COVID came in, unfortunately, and stopped the idea of a big cultural event, but every 5th of every month we have solidarity with Kashmir, and we have a campaign activity going. So people have kind of embraced around that, embracing around the global mandate as humanitarians, because as I said, we can all, whatever your political ideology, and that is looking at the removal of the troops, the stopping of the blinding with the pellet guns, you know, looking at justice for the Kashmiri widows, looking for human rights reports for all the missing, and seeking self-determination through a step process for democracy. And we believe that it's people power that we need to bring more people to this. COVID time, we've used, I think, while everybody was locked down, we've used the social media really well to make connections, to make links.
Excuse me, I'm asked for taking some little break.
Yeah.
नाज़रीन, हम छोटा सा ब्रेक लेते हैं, लेकिन ब्रेक से वापस आकर हम ये पूछेंगे मैडम क्लेयर से कि इन्होंने जो ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंटेरियन से जो मीटिंगें की, या जो खतूत यूनाइटेड नेशन के लिए लिखे, या जेनेवा में कश्मीर के हवाले से जो मीटिंगें हुई या जो बातचीत चल रही है, उस हवाले से इसकी क्या अचीवमेंट है। लेकिन ये सारी जो मैसेज आप तक पहुँचाने का मकसद ये था कि अगर एक बरतानिया से ताल्लुक़ रखने वाली खातून अगर कश्मीरियों के लिए ये दर्द लेकर दुनिया में चल रही है, तो हम कश्मीरी या हमारे लीडरशिप या हमारे जो लोग हैं वो किस और कब वो बेदार होंगे और इस गहरी नींद में जो सोए हुए हैं और 75 साल गुजर गए वो इस नींद से बेदार होने की कोशिश नहीं की थे। स्टे विद अस, हम वापस आएंगे तो इसी गुफ्तगू को आगे जारी रखेंगे। Ji, welcome back. Yes, this was a little break for us, and for our viewers. Now, you had a meeting with your parliamentarians in British Parliament. And your politicians, the decision makers. Does they recognize the Kashmiri's problem in your parliament, in British Parliament? Do they recognize? Do they want to step forward and they want to convince the India, or they want to interrupt or to convince India that stop atrocities, stop killing the people, withdraw your forces from Kashmir, and let's make a free country? What is your opinion and what is your achievement or your observation from your parliamentarians?
I think what we've got is a lot of cross-party parliamentarians who have they have a heart and they see it and they're working for it and they're pushing it. So there's a Kashmir cross-party coalition group made up, I think, of about 100 MPs, and they see it and they recognise it and they're insisting this is not a bilateral issue. And there was a debate recently, so it's all been a kind of lead up where you liaise with your own MP and then within groups and on Zoom meets, on Zoom conferences. So we have MPs supporting our solidarity events and campaigns and have helped on the journey as well. So these are doing an amazing job and we could see them in Parliament. Unfortunately at the moment it's still being cited by our government as a bilateral issue. And they are concerned about the human rights, and that's been a case of we are speaking to our Indian counterparts, and that's been, or there's also those that come in with other sides and stories. So at the moment our government sees it as a bilateral issue, but we have got people in there working. So the more people we can generate to get in the UK onto their politicians, then the more we can, and so it's being recognised, and it's being recognised by all parties. We just need more to recognise it.
That's right. You need time to convince the people, but that's. Have you ever been approached by the Indian forces, Indian agencies, Indian people, and your movement? To India to visit. Have you ever been in India? Or now, if you wish to visit India, what do you think? What do you expect from them? That whether they will allow you to visit India, or they will stop you on airport, or whatever?
I honestly don't know the answer to that. I would perhaps be expected to be stopped at the airport. My very first meetings with, and we've said before, this is not all Indian people, this is extreme Hindutva ideology followers.
That's right.
So when I first came to the subject, and was working online, you could spot them a mile off. They just did not give any heed to anybody else's ideologies. It was there, and they feel that they're being insulted, that we're insulting their country. We're trying to be democratic, we're trying to discuss. There was no discussion. On my journey, I've got called all sorts of names by these people. So we see the higher level behaviour that you showed earlier on that clip. On the lower level, there's these extremists that are just foul-mouthed, abusive, threatening, etc. I guess for me, it's my opinion strong enough, and I just let it wash off. But I have had, my YouTube channel is now no longer allowed to be seen in India. The Indian authorities approached YouTube to have that banned there. My Facebook page, you can no longer.
I'll just explain to my viewers in Urdu. नाज़रीन, ये जो खातून जो फरमा रही हैं कि मेरी जो कश्मीर के हवाले से जिस कदर भी जो मेरे इंटरव्यूज़ थे, या जो मेरी भी पार्लियामेंटेरियन से या सियासी लोगों से या सिविल सोसाइटी से जो मीटिंग होती थी, या जो भी एक्टिविटीज़ थी कश्मीर के हवाले से यूट्यूब पर लोड होती थी, मेरी यूट्यूब को बैन कर दिया गया। इंडिया में वो नहीं देखते। मेरे फेसबुक, मेरी यानी टोटली मेरी एक्टिविटीज़ को बैन कर दिया गया। Yes. So,
we're trying to be a pro-Kashmiri voice because they're so clamped, and it's gotten worse.
That's
the whole lot. So it's being pro-Kashmiri. It's not anti-Indian. Resolving things through dialogue is what you want. I can't understand how anybody wants to see humans suffering like this.
But as an observer, as a British observer, I mean, of course, you are meeting with the Indian people as well. The intellectual, I mean, the educated Indian people living in Britain. Do you think they are understanding, they are receiving or conceiving this kind of a message that Kashmiri needs independence and they need their own country independently?
A lot of them, it's generalising, but a lot of them don't like the Modi BJP government, and that's what they're standing against. They don't like his ethics, his rights, but they still perhaps see Kashmir as an integral part of India, and there's a slight divide there on, so they're more focused on Modi, RSS, the behaviour that's happening, but there is a feeling, not all, but I mean, we've seen some, Arundhati Roy, that's secular and pushing. So there's the divide. Just in any society, there are people that have their different ideologies.
But do they recognize that the poverty in India, I think they have a more poverty than Pakistan? And because of this crisis, this India-Pakistan crisis, the Kashmir in between, this is the only reason for both the nation that we people are, getting worse and worse and worse in poverty line. Now, do you think so the Indian people, do they recognize that if this war between India and Pakistan is eliminated, finished, and if they become the two countries, friendly countries, then economically we will be very happy and all this kind of thing. Do they have any realization?
Again, generalising with the BJP viewpoint, no, because it's about their story is this is terrorists and we want to make it safe, so this is why we have to do this. I can't see how they can be thinking fairly when we see the kind of behaviour that they're exhibiting. And then other cross-sections of Indian society, of course, there's many standing against it. They don't like it, and quite rightly. And then we've got those in the middle that maybe don't like the BJP, but would still want Kashmir to be part of India. So it's the whole mix.
But do they also realize and recognize that they have another problem, Punjab, the Sikh, they are also fighting for the independence, and they are very aggressively moving forward, What do you think about Sikhs movement and their progress?
I've seen that, and obviously it's hard for me because I'm in every, as a campaigner, I can see that. Again, that's being hidden. So the farmers' protests did come out a lot more than Kashmir, but it's not, again, being pushed so much. It's not visual in our world. It's in social media if people see it, but it's outrageous. It's the whole change of things, and we're seeing the Sikh farmers are doing an amazing job, and there's probably a lot happening that we're not seeing as well, to stand up against this. So it's difficult because I'm not an expert in every issue, and so it's like focusing on raising awareness of I don't know, they support their government blindly, it feels, with many people, and if you say anything against the government, then you're being anti-Indian, which is not how I see it or feel. We're talking about.
Stay with us. हम वापस आएंगे तो इसी गुफ्तगू को आगे जारी रखेंगे. Ji, welcome back. It's a great news that you've been in Kashmir, and in Kotli you were visiting, the last 2-3 days. And can you deliver this message to Indian people, the Indian society, that you as a British, as a foreigners, you have visited Kashmir and you did not saw any terrorist camp or any terrorism? It's a more peaceful country anywhere. Even we are more peaceful than Pakistan, you can travel anywhere and people will welcome you anywhere. You can walk in any house, and even you can walk near the line of control as well. So what is your observation about Kashmir, this part of Kashmir, which is living with Pakistan?
Yeah, I mean, beautiful. You know, it's free. It's, you know, an amazing place. I can only try and deliver the message through my videos, through my posts, through my talking, situations like this. Because of being clamped myself in India, I can take it to the international community, and I hope the international community can take that message back in. I mean, I myself came as a tourist. I'm on a tourist visa. I came as a visit. We were going to have a small event in a tea place in Kotley. And that was as a tourist. Sadly, there was like a protest nearby to the entrance. So the issues there are because, you know, of a security risk that India know my work and have me on the radar, it flagged up issues of security and safety. So the event that I'd come to go to wasn't allowed to happen then.
No, but generally, I mean, just my question is that Kashmir, I mean, the people, you walk in the street, you know, you are meeting with the people, you know. I mean, there's no security agencies, or no police, or no army carrying the gun, you know, or pushing the people through gun or this kind of thing. No. The way India is treating in Kashmir, you know. No. They have 1 million people, I mean, 1 million armed forces there. Yeah. And every day average, they killed 5 to 20 people. Yeah. And last few days, 2 weeks back, you know, they are searching every house. They have clamped down, you know, the whole villages. Yep. And they are searching every house, you know. 5 the young boys were killed, you know, yesterday. So what is your observation seeing the Kashmir people and the Kashmir area, as India is always barking in European countries that, Pakistan is creating more terrorists, you know, and they have a terrorism camps in Kashmir, and they provide the training and all this kind of thing. What is your opinion?
I would see
an independent, honest opinion.
Well, no problem at all. If I was not a Kashmiri activist, if I was just a standard tourist, I would have hit no issues at all. You know, everybody wants to invite you for tea. Everybody wants to, you know, you to be their guest. I felt safe walking on the streets. The views are incredible. They're beautiful. So I felt no fear, no concern. It's a lovely area. And so any issues that I came across were purely because I work for Kashmir, we're in a disputed territory, and, you know, that's recognised, and there are security issues. So, you know, for me, I wouldn't be allowed to go into India, probably,
that's
you know,
right. Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to do what I did in India and occupy Kashmir. And to be honest, you know, I don't know that I would really want to, the way they're treating people at the moment.
I think if India is candid and if India is honest, they should invite you. They should invite you and issue you a visa, and they should take you to occupied Kashmir, you know, and they can tell you that, okay, you've been in part of Kashmir with Pakistan, but you can see over Kashmir, you know, and you can have a fairly good comparison between two parts.
Totally. I mean, I've been welcomed with open arms in Pakistan. They're totally embraced, you know, open to dialogue, even with people's differences. They're recognising the humanity, they're recognising the democracy. I don't see it yet with India.
We have the last few minutes, you know, so what is your opinion lastly? I mean, what is the solution for this Kashmir? You know, what is ultimately Pakistan and India? I mean, they are, I mean, from the last 75 years, we are in war. Our armies are alert, you know, standing on the line of controls, and every day we have a problem, and we are, I mean, totally alert. Now, ultimately, for the civilized countries, civilized nations, what is the ultimate solution for Kashmiri people, and how to resolve this issue? What is your candid, honest opinion about Kashmiris and advice for both the countries, for Pakistan and for India? Yes, please.
Tricky question. My ultimate advice is self-determination for all Kashmiris.
That's
democratic, and that's based on solving the human rights abuses for me. So I don't know where the solution could come from. There are different, obviously, angles and things that people are trying. So for me, for the raising awareness, it's through the United Nations, you know, somehow kick the mechanics into order, you know, get somebody to oversee the plebiscite, however they then initiate it, get the mechanics of the United Nations working. And then for that, we need people. We need people to come to their governments. We need to get the young people, so that if this does continue onwards, we get new politicians, new governments, and fundamentally the democracy is recognised. And for me, it's about the Kashmiris' voice. So I only have advice, not for the Pakistan or Indian government, but for the world, to get behind these people on a human level and how can you help them. And we all have a democratic right to decide how we live our lives and where we should live our lives. And Kashmiris are owed this. So it's about what can they do for the best, what can we all do for Kashmir and Kashmiris.
नाज़रीन, मैडम क्लेयर बिडवल ने जो आखिर में अपना जो कंक्लूजन पेश किया, वो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान या इंडिया को तो एडवाइस तो नहीं कर सकती, लेकिन उसने तजवीज़ ये दी है कि जब तक आपने प्लेबिसिट यानी रायशुमारी जो यूनाइटेड नेशन ने अपनी रेजोल्यूशन अपनी करारदादों में जो एक वे फारवर्ड बताया था, जब तक वो अडाप्ट नहीं होता और जब जमहूरियत के ज़रिए वोट के ज़रिए फ़ैसला नहीं होगा और कश्मीरियों को आज़ादाना राय देने का हक़ नहीं दिया जाएगा, ये मसला कभी भी हल नहीं होगा। और इंडिया जो इस वक्त जो जुल्म व सितम कर रहा है, उसे अपनी इंडियन आर्मी को, अपनी फोर्सेस को विड्रा कर देना चाहिए। वी आर थिंकिंग एंड इट इज़ जस्ट लाउड थिंकिंग दैट इंडिया शुड विकेट एंड through their armies and their forces and leave them 10-15 years, leave them, they should breathe independently and let them think, what they are thinking, Kashmiris are thinking, and once they are ready to sit on the table or ready to resolve the issue through plebiscite or through democratic norms or whatever, but let them free, they should breathe freely for at least 10 to 15 years. So 10 से 15 साल तक जब तक उनको आज़ादी यानी आज़ाद नहीं छोड़ा जाता, वहाँ से इंडिया की फोर्सेस जो हैं वो वहाँ से विड्रॉ नहीं होती, जो इलाका छोड़ कर नहीं जाते और ये जुल्म व सितम जब तक बंद नहीं करते, उस वक्त तक ये इंडिया के लिए भी मसाइल रहेंगे, उनकी फ़ौजी भी मरते रहेंगे और हमारे बच्चे भी जो हैं वो भी शहीद होते रहेंगे। नाज़रीन, इसी पर आज हमारा ये वक्त ख़त्म हुआ। इंशाअल्लाह अगले हफ्ते फिर पेश होंगे। उस वक्त के लिए आप अपना और अपने इर्द गिर्द रहने वालों का ख्याल रखिएगा। खुदा हाफिज़।